Hello everybody and welcome to the second video on how to program your TI-84. These videos also work on TI-83, so if you have a TI-83, don't worry, just follow along and everything will be exactly the same. Today we're going to learn how to program the quadratic formula, which I have pulled up right here, into your calculator, so you don't have to do all this ugly mess by hand. You can just do it in your calculator. So what we're going to do is create a program on the calculator so that it automatically does this formula instantaneously. So we don't have to, do all this icky, bad. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to program and we're going to create a new program. Let's call this program Quadform. Quadform. Okay. So we're going to label the beginning A. We're going to put a flag at the beginning of the program called A, so that later in the program, if we want to go back to the beginning, we can just use the Goto function and say go to A, and it'll go back here to the beginning of the program. So what we need to do is we need to figure out what pieces of information the program needs to execute this formula. So we can look at the variables. Well, it needs a B variable, it needs an A variable, another A, it needs a C. So we need to have an input for A, B, and C. Before I input the variables, I want to have a clean home screen so that it looks nice. These clear home you don't really need. It just looks nice to have a nice fresh screen. So we're going to put it in there. Now we need inputs. Go to program, go to input, output right here. Now we can use the input function, which will just display a question mark, and we'll input a number and it'll store it into a variable. However, we won't know what variable we're inputting it into. So we're going to use the prompt so that it'll prompt us for a specific variable. So we can prompt variable A, we can prompt variable B, we can prompt variable C. Now this takes 3 lines. If you want to condense it, I'll delete all that. I could show you something. This is exactly the same language. If you put commas in between the variables, it'll prompt A, then it'll prompt B, and then it'll prompt C. Okay, next line. So now we want to take these variables and plug them into this equation. Minus b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Now as you see there's a plus or minus. You may be asking, how do I put that into my calculator? The answer is you don't. You cannot put a plus or minus into the calculator. You need to do a separate equation for the plus and a separate equation for the minus. So we're going to start with the plus. Now there's one thing to be very careful about when you're inputting these formulas into your calculator. And that's just when the order of operations. See this dividing sign right here? We need to make sure that we put everything in the numerator in parentheses. Otherwise, it'll all get more mixed up and it'll function terribly, just like Congress. Let's put this in parentheses for the numerator. Negative b. Let's do the plus version of the function. Plus the square root of b squared minus 4ac. Oop, no, did something wrong. Ignore that. Minus 4ac. Well, that closes the parentheses of the square root. This closes the parentheses of the numerator. Divided by 2a. Now we need to store this mathematical operation into a variable. So let's store that into variable x. Now we need to do the minus sign of the equation. So let's put the numerator in parentheses. Minus b minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac. Close the parentheses of the square root, close the parentheses of the numerator, divided by 2a. And we'll store that answer into variable y. Okay, so now we have both answers of our quadratic equation stored into variable x for one answer and stored into variable y for the other answer. Now we want to display the variables so we can actually know what the answers are. So to do that, we're going to have to use the display function. But first, I want a clear home screen, a fresh screen. Okay, clear home. Then go to input, output, go to display. Right here, it's number 3. And we'll use quotation marks. Whatever you type in between the set of quotation marks is going to be displayed on the screen as text. So we'll display answer 1. Is that how you spell answer? I don't know. Okay, whatever. It's English. I don't care about English. Okay, so answer 1, comma x. So it'll display the text answer 1, and then it'll display the value of the x variable. And the value of the x variable is the plus side of this equation. So now we'll do display. We need to display the second answer. Put in text here. Display answer 2, comma y. So it'll display answer 2, and then it'll display variable y. Make sure that you have 2 sets of parentheses right here, one before your text and one at the end of your text. So now we want time to read our answers. So we're going to go down here. Number 8 under control functions, you have pause. So this will wait for the user to press enter. Once the user presses enter, it'll proceed to the lines below it. Pause. After it displays the answers, we want to clear the home screen again, and then go back to the beginning of the program so that we can input a new equation and find new answers. To do this, we'll go to Program, Control Functions, go to the Goto function, go to A. It'll go to flag A, which we remember up here is at the beginning of the program. So once it reaches the end, it'll go back up to the label A and start all over again. Alright, let's test this out. Go to Program, Quad Form, Enter. Let's say let's do the quadratic equation x squared plus 4x plus 4 equals 0. So 1x squared plus 4x plus 4 equals 0. Answer 1 and answer 2. There you go. That means that the answer to this quadratic equation is -2. Alright, now there's one thing you need to pay attention to, and that's if the quadratic equation does not have any answers. That's if you have like 2x squared plus 3x plus 10. Non-real answer. What does that mean? That means that the quadratic does not cross the x-axis, and this program cannot handle answers in the terms of I. There is a way to program it, which I probably will cover in a later video, but for right now, we do not need to know that. So non-real answer, that means it does not cross. The program cannot handle it. So if your math teacher teaches you that, how to do it by hand, you'll have to do that one by hand, or you just put no solution. Let's try 2x squared plus 7x plus, let's do 6. Here you go. Answer 1, -6. Answer 2, -8. So there's an example of how it can handle both answers and display both answers. And you don't need to do it by hand ever again, because you have a program. You just need to plug it in, and you'll be good and set to go. If you find any errors, make sure you have all your quotation marks in the right places, and make sure you have your parentheses in the right places. To exit out of this program, because it is in an infinite loop, you just press the on button, press clear, and you're good to go. Alright, thanks for watching. I hope you have fun not doing work by hand.